Wouldn't tell that.
I know.
That's why.
I mean, sometimes there's stuff you just need to keep to yourself. That's one of them.
Welcome to Limitless Outreach Podcast. We are together here, Jody and I, with our dear friends, what we consider family, Mr. Kenny, Jarrett, and Trish. What an honor.
Yes. They are part of our outreach family.
Yeah.
And Kenny, having owner of Cowden Plantation and Jarrett Rifles, and so awesome of a place that we have found to be part of our home on Thursday nights inside the Finn building on the Finn farm. And we're so thankful today for your family and what you have done in the kingdom, and
Amen.
Honored to be a part of your family. Now, I've been in the club, I guess, I think it's going on 19 years now. Maybe almost, it's either 19 or 20 years I've been a part of Cowden Plantation. And to a young man that was a dream to be a part of that place. And when I got on, so shell-shocked. And to know that now it was never about the hunting, but, we see now the full plan of what God's plan was. But just thankful to have you today. And so
Thanks
we met.
for having us.
Yeah, had you.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, met you a long time ago, but didn't know this is where we'd be. We went picture it 20 years later. We're sitting in a room in the Limitless living room and doing a podcast. But what an honor! And I will say this: I've said this behind your back. I'll say it to your face. You're probably one of the most interesting storytellers. You're an interesting man. You have been a lot of places. And, I think, and even the museum and everything that you have, it's a wild life that you have lived and been a lot of places. It's in a lot of things,
Yes.
that people dream of doing. And so I'm just looking forward to hearing some of your stories this evening and let people know who you are, you and Trish and Kenny, how you are and what you've done and how you got here. And so what an honor it is to be here. And Trish, I've not known you as long.
No.
4 years?
4 years.
I remember I met you on a Cowden dove hunt. I'll never forget when you walked by me, and it was kind of during COVID, and we was trying to figure out how to make COVID and hunting work. And I'll never forget when you walked right past me. Somebody was trying to hug all over you, like, whoa, it's social distance. Get off of me. So, and I remember
I probably
that.
had a mask on.
You probably.
I think everybody else was maskless.
Yep, you
and
had
I
a
was
mask
wearing
on.
a mask.
You were wearing a mask. And I remember as plain as day you walking right by me. And that was the first day. Who knew that, 4 years later, this is where we would be.
Amen.
Yeah.
So, but it's an honor to know you and to have you part of our family. Thankful for everything you've done in the kingdom.
Yeah.
Well, what y'all do at Cowden is just amazing. And not just Cowden, but, we drove up tonight, all the cars out here. Kenny said, what's going on? I said, they always got something going on. Yes. And y'all are just, y'all are family to us. We love you to death, and it's just amazing to us, all that y'all do accomplish for the Lord.
Yes.
Yes.
And you cook. You've learned how to cook for me.
Yeah, meat.
Kenny, she knows don't do vegetables. He wants meat and potatoes.
That's right.
She's learned how to cook for me.
Well, Kenny's not much different, but venison. I've cooked so much venison. He doesn't want any venison anymore. So we were low on venison because he didn't get a deer last year. Well, now we're high on venison because we haven't eaten any. But he wants me to go deer hunting. I'm like, I won't shoot one, but I'll eat the heck out of one.
Well, I tell you how you know when you've eaten too much deer meat. The wind gets to howling pretty good, and you catch yourself jumping up and running and getting behind the couch. You eat too much deer meat.
Yeah. There's one of long time ago memory. You built this golf cart, and it had a stand on the back of it. And you would,
my goodness.
I will never forget. I remember driving up thinking, what kind of contraption is this? And you were hunting a buck right before Possum Eddy, I think, right there. There was a buck crossing that tree line somewhere right in there in the Bill Gaines field. And I remember I would go hunting, and later on I would see that golf cart sitting right there in the bushes. He was trying to catch that buck that was coming across that field in the evenings. And that golf cart somewhere's probably still down there if it ain't in the graveyard.
It is. We're trying to get it running right now.
Oh boy.
Been
Oh
sitting
boy.
up for what, 6-7 years?
Yeah. And you'd climb up in the back of it. He'd drive that camouflage golf cart and he'd climb out and climb in the back of it. I'm thinking,
And swivel seat.
Swivel seat. I'm thinking, does that thing gonna tip over or what's gonna go on there?
I had outriggers on it.
I didn't know that.
And I'd level it up, you know. It was a good idea, but I am out of the climbing business now.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless it can pick you up and put you in it.
If I got to climb, I ain't gonna get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get you one of those electric things. We'll get it like a little escalator and pull you.
You know, I had a buddy, and of course he's a city boy and don't know nothing about nothing, but he rented one of those things, and he was similarly under a deer they were trying to get up with, a big buck. And he didn't put the outriggers out, and he run that one of them scissor things.
Yeah.
He went up high as it would go, and he's a big boy. He'll weigh 260, and he was rocking it.
Oh my goodness.
Boom, like they killed him.
Really?
You know.
Oh no. Okay, well we won't do that.
Well, we won't do
No,
that.
no.
I got another story. I bet you don't even remember. There was a personal stand. I went to Jay and I said, Jay, I want to put a personal stand on B10 Road, on the road. And he said, man, my dad just said he wanted to put a stand down there. I said, well, by all means, I don't think I have. It should be a vote. I mean, I don't think I'm going to get this vote. I said, tell you what, if I put a really nice double stand with a roof, then he can just hunt it anytime he wants. And so he talked to you. I don't know if you remember this. It was on a pine tree or an oak tree, kind of looking back up toward the stand B10. In that curve to the road. This has been probably 15 years ago. And it was a good stand. I mean, the does would pour out of that. There were small pines to your left, and then you had all them hardwoods to your right. And they would just pour out. You could barely get up in the evening, and they would just start pouring in that road, because that transition between them oaks and them pines right there. Well, you called me. I was shrimping, so that's back when I was shrimping, and so it was about the first week in October, and I was at the coast shrimping, and you called me on my phone, and I was like, man, I was out there in the boat. I said, hello, and you had hunted it that evening, and so it's actually that night I was shrimping. Jody, where you at? I'm shrimping. If you don't get back up here and get in this deer stand and shoot the buck that I just saw, he said, I sat down, and he said, well, about the time I turned around, a doe came out, and this buck came out. He said, Jody, he is one of the biggest bucks I've ever seen on the place. He said, he is a giant. And he said, I was going to shoot it, and he said, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm in your stand. And so if you don't get up here and kill this deer, I'm going to kill it. And so I drive all night long. My wife's appendix burst on the way back. And we didn't know it. She thought she was just hurting. I come all the way back home. I don't even think I went to bed. I get up the next morning, go to Cowden. I sign in. By the time I sit down, I hear bucks fighting to the right. I said, oh, it's going to happen today. It's happening. And then all of a sudden, my phone starts blowing up. 911, 911. And my wife's appendix said, but I had to get out of the stand.
Oh, no.
Neither one of us killed it.
It wasn't the day.
It wasn't the day.
He's real generous when he sees a buck about not shooting it, telling other people about it.
Yep. Yeah, that's what he did. He said, come kill him where I am.
He did that for my nephew Diego.
Yeah.
You know, he saw it, and then he took Diego hunting, and first time he'd hunted, he got that buck that Kenny had seen. So
That's awesome.
he's generous about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was really excited. That's the great joy that I have now in hunting is sharing it with kids. I bet I'm being conservative, but I'm gonna say probably 20 kids that sat on my knee and shot their first deer,
Yeah.
and they never forget that.
Yeah. That's right.
And most of them, when I see them somewhere, they'll come and say, Uncle Kenny, and hug my neck and all, because that is a tattooed memory in their mind, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, tell us how, I got these hats right here you brought for us. Tell us how Jarrett Rifles started.
Well, it goes back to my childhood. my daddy left us when I was 6 months old, and my sister was 7 years old. And he was a real bad alcoholic. Nobody knew where he went, so I never met the guy. Well, we were in a desperate situation where we had nowhere to go. So my mama called my uncle and told him what was going on. He said, "Well, I'll bring a truck up there and a couple of helpers, and we'll bring your stuff home." And I remember Mama saying, "You won't need a big truck. You won't need any help."
Yeah.
My father had evidently pawned about everything out of the house, including the kitchen table. Well, what happened then was we moved in with my grandmama and my uncle. Well, the way it worked out, my mama worked all the time in Augusta, so I would see her maybe twice a month. My grandmama assumed the role naturally as being my mother. And if I skinned my knee, I had a button that had to be sewn on or whatever. She's the one that took care of it. So I naturally imprinted, as small as I was, on my grandmama. And so in staying there with them, it was a foundation for my faith. My grandmama was one of the most dynamic Christians I've ever been around. She could, white or black, didn't make any difference. Somebody got burned out and she heard about it. I have watched her take bedclothes off of blankets and bedspread and stuff like that, wash them, iron them, fold them up, and wanted me to put it in my basket and carry it to them.
Yeah.
And I remember her doing that more than one time. So seeing you're a Christian and living like a Christian
Amen.
Yeah.
is two different things.
Right.
But and then I got big enough, I wanted a suit because I saw all the men at church had a suit on. I said, well, I'm about this big. I want a suit, And I remember she got like my grandmama didn't drive. The lady drove me to Augusta and found a suit at Penny's that would fit me. And boy, I thought I was the hot stuff then. I had one of them little snap-on ties, And so, I have been in and around church all my life. So my children were raised that way. And what came into the outreach being there was first your membership in the club forever.
Yeah.
And people to get to know and realize what you were, who you were, and who you stood for. And then you got to be good friends with my son, who's no longer with us. But you and he evidently hashed up the idea of possibly having a podcast down there.
Or out the Bible study. Yeah.
A Bible study, yeah.
Yeah.
And about the second one you had, I think he told me about it. And he said, Dad, if you want to go, anybody can go. So I started going. And I have been inside and outside thoroughly blessed with everything I've seen, everything I've heard. The people's lives that I saw turned around, people that I have talked to and witnessed to no avail for years, you baptized them. And I said, this is where I need to be. And I got hurt pretty bad at a Baptist church. That's a long story, but I had a chairman of the deacons that didn't particularly like me. I don't know why. And they kept arranging all kind of stuff. Like I was head of buildings and grounds. I did the Bible study, a little lesson for the widow women. I did one for the men once a month, first Monday night. And I had my hands full. Well, they kind of slowly but surely started taking my jobs away from me. Well, they did it because I was told because I was divorced. Well, I was a deacon when I was 20 years old, so the Baptists go one way or the other with that.
Yeah.
There's no carved rule about it. But anyway, that was the excuse that they had for me. And what really did it for me is I told the Brotherhood one night, and I'd usually wind up cooking for them too. And then I'd prepare about a 30-minute little message. And I caught the catfish and peeled a whole big bag of sweet potatoes to make real French fries. And got all my stuff together and got up there to the church. And there was a lot of guys standing around back there where we cooked. And I didn't think much about it. I realized I'd left one of my cookers at home. I turned around and took off back to the house and got the other cooker. Well, the time I hit the highway out there at the ball field, the Jackson cop got me, wrote me a ticket. And but anyway, when I got back up there, they were cooking fish that they had bought at Sam's. And hadn't said nothing to me. And you talking about breaking my heart and crushing me hard as I worked on all that stuff. That didn't work too good.
Yeah.
Then my wife left me for reasons that I probably won't get into here. But anyway.
Well, at the end of the day is even in that, we find out that in church, no matter where you go, it doesn't matter any denomination, it's multi-denominations, that people sometimes intentionally hurt people and sometimes unintentionally.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it still hurt. Like, even if it didn't mean to, it's
the
still...
wound is the same size.
Yeah.
On your side, it's the same hurt. And so what I think of the beauty, what I feel like what these outreaches offer is I had a guy walk up to me a couple of months ago. He walked up to one of the other outreaches and says, "Man, I like this because I don't like organized religion." I was like, "Well, you're going to love and hate it then, because it doesn't look organized. It doesn't look like anybody's really in charge." I said, "There are people 30 minutes from here, an entire board, a committee that knows everything we're doing. You think I'm just fly by night in here." But what is beautiful about the outreaches is you leave all of that out of it. Like, that's not involved with the service part. Mm-hmm. And when you walk in a room to a person looking from the outside in, it will look like, man, this thing is, who's in charge, or nobody's in charge. It's kind of doing whatever they want to do. It's very organized. We know everything we're doing. Like, when I go to Cowden on Thursdays, my phone's going off all day from different ones that are over things like, make sure this is done. I got the air conditioners on. I got the building clean. The bathrooms are clean. This is what we're doing with the children all day long. But it looks like when we show up, they just throw things together, and it's not. It's not. It is very, very organized. But what I've heard from some of the other men that come down to Cowden Bible study, our Cowden Family Fellowship, that they're like, "Man, this is just so refreshing." That may even go to other churches like, "Man, we get in these churches and we voting on everything. We voting on everything. We voting on this. We got this." Like you said, people get hurt, and unintentionally and intentionally. But at the end of the day, God never was the one that hurt you. Mm-mm. People do that. That's people. And I'm thankful, even what the enemy does things, and the enemy moves in people, whether it be unintentional or intentional, all them things, that God can still turn that thing around on the backside. And, you are part of the failures in life and part of the things that you've been through, and the high parts and the low parts. You just talked about, that Jay is no longer with us, but, all of that, it works together somehow, because I hate this verse, but I ain't gonna say I hate the verse, but I don't like living it sometimes. Right. Every good and perfect gift. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't like perfect gifts. Even that, the catfish thing, that's a perfect gift. Now, you may not know what it's unwrapping at that moment, but it's unwrapping something, unintentional or intentional. God still uses those things. And so I'm thankful that, as far as the Bible study side, it's free from all of that. That there's no big personalities trying to take over. Mm-hmm. There's no, like, I want that, like, nobody's begging for a job. We're just trying, because there's no money taken up. There's no money involved at all.
Yeah. Everybody's
mean,
on the same playing field. Everybody's on the same level. You're not. Yeah.
That's
You
right.
walk in, you
That's the magic.
talk about it. That's it. It doesn't.
That's the
It's
magic.
you just know what's going to happen next, and you know that hey, we might be all milling around and talking to each other, but all somebody's got to do is get your attention, and everybody's ready to get
They're ready to
started.
go.
Let's eat, okay? Then they're ready to let's preach. Then they're ready to let's sing.
That's right.
You know, so it's. I think we've learned. At first we probably thought it's not organized, but we've learned. Hey, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
There's people in this room that know what's going on.
Yeah.
And that we're not just showing up 100%, you know, and I have the crazy numbers that we've had, and they double stacked, it's triple stacked, standing around that building, and to have that. And I think a lot, you know, a meal is something as simple as a meal that to the outsider looking in like, this is just too much. We do it at 4 places a month. Every other week they're in a rotation, and we do it. And it works because everybody does their little part. Yeah. Sometimes this week, maybe somebody's got to do a little more.
They're involved.
That's exactly, they're involved. They are part. You think about, you know, churches, you know, as in this quote unquote synagogue church, not house to house church. But that church, it looks like just a few people are doing all this work. Whereas when you go to Cowden, if everybody ain't bringing cupcakes and meat and sausage and spaghetti or whatever, they're walking through that door, there's not hardly a person you see at Cowden, they're walking in with a tray of something, smiling, laughing, you know, and they're just so excited. They're bringing a tray in, they're sitting it down. I'm sure some people get burned out a little bit, but we've been doing it 4 years.
Yeah.
And we've done it every other Thursday.
And everybody in the room has a high level of respect for both of y'all.
Yeah.
And we try to protect that because
Appreciate that.
everybody does.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
something else, Jody, is a lot of these people have been in churches where they weren't allowed to do anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was a core in that church that ran everything and did everything.
This gives space.
Everybody gets to do something.
Yeah.
It's not that they have to do it; they get to do it.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
And I've met some of the key people in our church have come from Cowden Outreach. I'll never forget the day I met Rachel and her dad, Rachel and Jeff. That they are some of the biggest kingdom crushers I've ever met. And they run a nursing home ministry now. They're doing, I don't have to babysit them. You don't have to, and they came because of the second anniversary service when we had to keep moving locations and changing. We was in front of the museum. And I thought, God, if this would have never started, I'd have never met these people. And they are just some of the most
dynamic.
awesome.
Very dynamic.
Very dynamic. Huge family, huge part here. Now she's the hostess down there, takes care of all the clean. I don't have to ask her, did you do your job? She texts me, hey, building's clean, bathroom's clean, floor's mopped, it's done. Every time. And you know, and we met her through that family, through the ministry down there. And it's so powerful. And I think about everybody that even works in our church now. When you look at the Sullivans, you look at the Lumleys, and even now their kids are being plugged in.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Like it's just
definitely.
it just keeps
That's
onion.
the big part.
Yeah.
That's it.
And the bear knows, yes.
That's the big part.
That's right. And the Bear Nose, and in fact, Kevin will be preaching some here coming up, and for tomorrow for the seniors or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, man, God did something big, and He did. He used. It was the backstory. What you probably don't even know about Jay and I is I've been a member for years, whatever, and I knew he was hurting. Well, there was a Thursday, and actually 2 weeks ago, about 4 years, all this took place because it come up on my phone as a memory. I was on a Thursday. I was at Lowe's. Well, he pulled up beside me, and Jay and I would talk briefly, and then he go on. Well, he brings out his phone. He rolls out his window because he sees me. He says, come over and get in the truck with me. I ain't never got in the truck with you before. I get in the truck with him. And he starts showing me these pictures from Africa and he kill these animals. He's like, you got to see it. For an hour, he talks to me in Lowe's parking lot. And he's showing me all these pictures. Well, I get out because he's got to go shopping. I'm going home. No, I'm going back in Lowe's. We're both going to Lowe's. So we both go in there. And somehow I cross him on a Lowe's path and his back's hurt. He has to sit on a 5-gallon bucket at Lowe's. So he's sitting down his bucket. He said, come here and sit, get a bucket, sit beside me. So here me and him are in Lowe's aisle, sitting on 2 buckets. I'm like, okay, if you want to talk, I'll listen. That was on a Thursday. On the Friday, whatever. Saturday morning, I'm down there. And I knew something's different. I don't know what it is. And so Saturday morning, I'm down there. And I meet him, and there's some biologists or something down there doing some work, taking pictures, taking samples. I don't know what they're doing. And I said, man, I feel like something's happening. And your grandson, John, I got a picture on my phone, has stuck one of them big old tractors at like D19, I think. He is, and drove off the road, and that 140 horse, whatever tractor that is, that thing is sunk to the axles. And he calls while I'm sitting there with Jay and whatever, and he said, I got to go get him out. I said, you ain't in no position to get anybody out. I'll go get him out. So I drive down there in the tractor. I get him out. And on the way back, I said, God, if you open a door, I'm going to pray. But there's 5 people around him right now because of biologists and John and the helpers. I said, you got to do some things. I'm not going to do that in front of all these people. If you open the door, I know that's you. We drive back up to the lawn shed. And one by one, they're walking off, and they're leaving, and they're leaving. And I leaned over the window. I said, you mind if I pray for you? He said, please pray for me. And I said, I about jumped over the hood of that truck. and I prayed for him. Well, later on, that opened up a door. In 10 days, he's in surgery. They opened up a door. I told that story on Sunday, which then that's where I met Dina. Well, then she said, give me his phone number. And in 10 days, he's on operation table. And so... while he was healing or laying in the bed or chair or whatever, I said, man, he said, I'm going to come to church with you. I was like, I'm not asking you to come to church with me. We then figured this thing out through the barn. I'm not looking for you to come to church. I said, Jay, I'll do a Bible study right here in your room. Right here in your living room. Just me and you. Well, the Sullivans walked in. Because it was a pitiful crew. I was at the nursing home that day because Dan had knee surgery. So they got one laid out on his back and got Dan walking in with crutches. I'm like, okay. And so they all sprawled out talking about how bad they hurt everywhere. And I'm sitting in there telling them about Bible study. And he's like, well, I want them to come. Okay, I mean, I'll do it here. Now let's do it at the Finn building. I want to invite some people. And that's how it started. Was through all of that. And then that's right, you didn't come to the first one, but second, if you remember, I had to stand almost at the last 2 tables because that's how many people in the room, like 20-something people in the room. Mm-hmm. To now to be, you got to fight for a seat or sit in somebody's lap, but to God be the glory for that.
That's right.
And what an honor it has been to be a part of that and to continue. And I believe even the last couple of weeks, something is broke free in the room.
Oh,
and it is.
What was attendance last week?
125.
I thought it was more than that. It sure looked like it was more than that.
Yeah, that's right. And we've had as many up to almost 300, I guess, at anniversary things outside. And we pull that off every time somehow, weather permitting, we do outside. And
it had to be in the winter that it was the anniversary.
It's always the winter.
Anniversary. Freezing.
We got heaters everywhere.
Kenny, which takes us back to your grandmother, the promise you made to her about building a church. So that kind of ties into this.
Yeah.
This too.
Well, my uncle too, he died of pancreatic cancer. And he told me, he said, Kenny said, I want you to do one thing. He said, I know I'm in the real short rows. That's the way he said it. He said, I want you to go on and build that church for Mama. Well, technically she was my grandmama, but she was my mama too.
Right.
And I said, okay. I said, I'll see what I can do. So I really, in earnest, a month or so after he passed away, he lived 90 days from diagnosis to the grave. And I looked around, and it must be 6 or 7, maybe 8 churches in Jackson, and a close perimeter of Jackson. And you would go by there on Sunday morning, there'd be 3 cars at this one, be 6 at this one, blah, blah, blah. And then I got into the Gideon ministry 21 years ago. And I saw how bad it was in Jackson and everywhere, that the church was just going. And so I said, well, I've got all this old stuff that people like to look at. They won't let us give Bibles in the schools anymore. I'd been threatened in the valley twice to be arrested. They're going to call the sheriff. I said, call him. I said, here, I got his number already. I was a little bit belligerent. That happens sometimes.
That's right. Well, building a church though, we in our mind, like I wish your grandmother / mother and uncle could see, because when we say when they say that,
We
and when
see a
people say
building.
that, they always see a building.
Yeah.
And God always sees a people.
Yeah.
Like Israel, the nation, the dirt don't mean anything to God. When he says Israel, he's talking about the people.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the people that have come to at Cowden Fellowship, Bible Fellowship, our wonderful family in Jackson, it's become a family. And some of those people, but they don't all come to our church. They go to their churches. But I believe it's even enriched their walk with Christ.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
It's touched them. Go back to your church. Take this with you to your church, and maybe this will revive you to touch someone else. But in reality, you have built a church.
Yeah.
Well, y'all have.
Well, we just a part. We have. Let's do it that way. A bunch of us. And
It takes a crew.
it takes a crew. Well, and when we say Cowden Plantation and Cowden, people probably have no idea what we're talking about. I've sat through a many opening day of hunting or club suppers, and you tell Cowden stories. I've heard all kind of Cowden stories. Can you kind of tell us about Cowden the plantation itself?
Okay.
Like how it arrived, what about it, some interesting things about it.
Well, in early 1950, about 52, it was announced that Savannah River site was coming. And the condemnation crews for the government were already in there. The condemnation crew is thus, if the government needs this land, I know you don't want to sell it, but we're going to take it for you. We're going to give you something for it, but we need it. We're going to take
That's right.
it. And that's what happened to a bunch of people. At Old Ellington, Dunbarton, Myers Mill, and all down in there. And so when they came and started doing that, nobody knew how far they were going. And they were on what's now the Finn farm. They were out there with an old D7 tractor pushing some right-of-way or something. And they bogged it up out there. That tractor's still out there. They left it running, vibrating, and just went right on down.
Yeah.
Well, that made them back off or whatever, but do you know where they cut the line off? Which
That's
is
right, I do,
up
right
at
on line.
Cowden. I think I joined them for like 11 miles or something. And so I said, well, I don't know really what to do, where to go with this church thing he's been talking about. But I'm gonna do something. Well, I'd kind of give up on it till y'all came along, and then the plant. When they got through with that condemnation, my uncle had 2,200 acres that they took from him for $32 an acre.
Wow.
Whoa.
And boy, they would send him a report of the timber harvest on DuPont every year, which is 320,000 acres. And he was not fit to talk to for about 2 weeks. It did not make him happy at all.
Yeah.
So we just
was part of Cowden initially? Okay.
2,200 acres of it was, yeah.
Okay.
Right
Most
there,
of it
that
was-
borders it there?
Yeah, most of it was on the government side of Crackerneck.
Okay, I
side.
got you. Okay.
And so he had no fond feelings about that at all.
And at that time, was it called Cowden Plantation?
Really it was casually for the people that knew it, but not in a great deal. Where the Cowden came about is when it would rain, my uncle collected old maps and all kind of old paperwork, and I still got most of it. And I would sit in the office when it was raining, and I'd look at a plat or a map, and I call him Papa. I said, Papa, where's this at? And he would tell me, and all like that. And we'd look at it, and he'd say, well, son said, we own that at one time, but we don't anymore. And then he would get kind of upset about it. But anyway, everything I looked at had Cowden written on it. Cowden this, Cowden that. All right, Governor James H. Hammond, who was the governor of South Carolina He was a U.S. senator. He was a state senator. And Red Cliff, the house is on the National Registry of Historic Places. He owned that place in the 1850s, I guess it was. And he, in his book, he's got two books. One, The Hammonds of Red Cliff, and the other one is Secret and Sacred. Secret and Sacred is actually his personal diary. But anyway, he mentions Cowden a lot. I remember one story about, he said he was down in the swamp and a wild hog got after him and said he charged the buckboard and like to tore it up with them in it. Whoever them was, I don't know.
Right.
But anyway, he went on and on about stories that happened down there, and he talked about one of his sons was farming it, and that they had a good corn harvest that year, real great. He was bragging on it, made 62 bushels to the acre.
Wow.
We've made 300. But anyway, he passed away at some point right after the Civil War. He had two sons. One fought for the North and one fought for the South. And when he passed away, the place eventually got away, but he didn't own all of what Cowden is now. He didn't own but 4,200 acres there. But anyway, he passed away, and it went through a couple of hands I know nothing about, and it was a fellow named Cozart that moved there from somewhere, and he was going to farm it and everything. His house was right where the Penn building sits right now.
Really? Okay.
And we used to call that spot the okra patch because that's where we planted our okra every year. But anyway, we stumbled along there with all that, and really didn't think much about the name. And I was really, what really the breakthrough was, y'all, was when we started still hunting. We would dog drive, and we had people bring dogs from, we'd have at least a dozen packs of deer dogs and run deer with dogs, which is a lot of fun, but it's dangerous too.
Right.
And we would, we really wasn't pushing the name, but I had some pins made, and one was a green one that said guest, and a white one said member, and it had our little emblem, the same one that's on that hat right there. And those pins, the guys that paid for the year got the two pins. And
What was the dues back then?
$150.
$150. Inflation's on us a little
You
bit.
want to go back in time?
That included meals now.
Do what?
That included meals. We
Included
cooked at
meals.
every hunt.
Really?
Wow.
But that's when the name Cowden started. And I said, well, I got something here from an advertisement point of view. And so I had some caps made and some T-shirts. And in fact, one of those, no, it don't. I got one at home that's got the original logo patch. I had patches made and then had them sewed on the hats.
And what year would have been that around in the shooting?
67, 69. About 1970.
Okay.
And it just took off from there, And another thing that was a real vote getter for Cowden was Bent Lake.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, all the big lawyers and doctors and everything, wanted to fish in Bent Lake. And that's what brought the club. So we did two things. We had the fishing
Right.
initially now, before the deer hunting, because when we started the club, there wasn't any deer there.
And what
Wow.
was the fishing charge to be a member of
That was
Okay, I got you.
but anyway, we had fishing and dove shoots. That's what they wanted to do, and that's what we had. And we gathered up all the influential people because they knew it was kind of special and all. And One of them, he was in Augusta for something. The first major guy that came down there fishing at Bent Lake was Art Linkletter.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing him. And my uncle and my granddaddy went to the Hitchcock Inn in Augusta. And my uncle, my granddaddy, was kind of a game warden for the northern people that owned most of Cowden. And they were the guy that owned Singer Sewing Machine, the guy at Grace Chemical Company, some of these big wigs from up north that own land down there, you know. And they went along there with I done lost my train of thought now. Anyway, the things seemed to blossom all in a nutshell when I
In the 70s.
when I
somewhere.
gave it a name.
Right. That's right.
And I didn't give it a name. The name was on the earliest I saw was a plat from it was 1851.
Really.
And had known as Cowden Plantation. I've seen Gray's Point, which is our boat ramp
That's right.
down there. I've seen it on other plats like it on microfilm in Columbia and all. It went back to 1820s.
Really.
Wow.
Yep. That's right there when you come down and you just kick off to the right.
Yeah, yeah.
So how did the deer get there?
They
Yeah.
turned them loose on Savannah River side.
What do you mean they turned them loose?
They had some from Francis Marion
Uh-huh.
in the state.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how many they transferred, but they brought, I'm guessing, 30 does and about 10 bucks. Well, I remember, I guess I was probably 9 years old. My uncle said, "Son, get in the truck, I'm going to show you something." Well, he couldn't have said nothing. He could have told me Santa Claus was now going to come 3 times a year.
Yeah.
It would have made me no happier when
Yeah.
he told me that get in that truck. So
Get in truck.
I went down there and we rode right down there to that little field. I'm blank. I could look at the map and tell you where you have to turn right on the old Bent Lake Road, and there's a little patch right
That's
up against.
exactly right. I know exactly what you're talking about.
First deer track I ever saw was in that little patch. My uncle had put a bucket over it. And it was a big old buck track, a big old buck. And anytime he was in Jackson, he would all stop by Mr. Fred Brinkley's filling station. Well, all the farmers and all the people that were original Jacksonites would hang out there. And he had a regular tour going on,
To see that deer track.
carrying people down there to see that deer track.
One deer track.
I mean, it
More
was
than
a
one deer
big,
track.
big deal.
That's great.
I wish somebody would have talked him into, and of course they didn't know what to do because they never seen one either, but made up a plaster Paris. It was a big old track. And that's the first I knew about the deer deal.
So technically, he could have charged for tracks of deer before he even
Right.
charged for deer.
Right.
We got tracks, guys.
And then somebody down in the low country, he would go once a year down to a little old place down close to where our spot is. What was the name of that place? Tillman, South Carolina. And he would carry a truckload of groceries and 2 or 3 of his buddies and pickups, and they'd go down there and they'd meet some of their friends down there, and they would dog drive for a week. Big old place, right off the Savannah River. And so he got the itch originally for the dog driving from going down there. But that was the only time he ever went anywhere. As far as I know, up to his death, I don't know if he ever left the South Carolina line, a state of South Carolina, except to come to Florida one time to get me out of jail.
Oh boy.
I like that. That's good. At least he did it for you. That's right. I like that.
He was not a happy camper when he got there. But he brought the chief of police of Jackson.
What? How? Well, when did you stop dog driving, Cowden?
About 1983.
Okay.
And what brought that about, and I've got 4 or 5 instances where I had a near-death experience involving hunting I could share with you if we have time, but we started the dog hunting out at the plant. The guy that was the head forester out there and my uncle were good friends. And he said, Gerald said, these government people say they're hitting too many deer with the cars. We got to do something about the deer. And I want you to come out here and see how it would work out to maybe have some dog drives out here and have drawings and let people come and start trying to thin out some of these deer. So I was on a drive and we had a good pack of dogs. I think I was in the 11th grade. And my dogs jumped. I mean, there were deer down there like fleas. I mean, there were. Anytime you turned the dogs out, you heard your lead dog. You always had a dog that would strike. He was the lead dog. And sometime I wouldn't get the length of this building. They done jumped and gone.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes they would swing around like a rabbit does.
Right.
I killed a lot of deer that way. But anyway, well, they were gone out of here. And so I started walking. And I know I had crossed this road when we were going back to where the government guys a forestry guy would carry us and says, you turn out right here and go that direction. Well, I said, well, I'll walk out to this road and go back around because it was so thick in there. And I walked out in the road, and the guy was standing down there with a gun. He looked around real quick and saw me and threw his shotgun up. I said, whoa, wait a minute. Boom, shot. Well, I heard them go all around me. In the bushes, the plum bushes behind me. And I backed up in the bushes where he couldn't see me, and I was seeing where the blood was going to come from. And I didn't see any. And I said, I probably ought to go down and come out right behind that guy and put a whooping on him showing up. I had a thought of doing that.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway, I had one of those mechanical pencils in my pocket, a lead pencil. It was yellow. I'll never forget it. One of them buckshot had went through my shirt pocket, cut that pencil in two, and come out right along here somewhere and never touched me. In fact, I didn't even feel nothing because when they started hitting them bushes and all, I
Scared you.
Lord, open the eastern gate. I'll be there in a few minutes. But anyway, my uncle didn't like the sound of that. He was extremely protective of me. Well, right on about 2 years later, I was after our season was over, there was about a 2-week season that went on beyond our season in Carolina. And I'd go out to Cowden Plantation, which some friends of mine own on the Georgia side, right out of Waynesboro. And it was owned by the Barrel Pencil Company, lead pencil company. And, man, they had deer everywhere. And, again, I was driving our dogs, and they put us, it was woods just like this table. And the guys that was obvious, they didn't know what they were doing. They would put you in right here and say, go out about, when you can see the other side, that's where I want you to turn loose. And that guy put us in that strip of woods like steps of a ladder.
Yeah.
So I had a guy behind me and a guy in front of me. I said, man, this don't look too good here.
With shotguns.
Shotguns, buckshot, double-aught buckshot.
Yeah.
And so, and by then we all had 3-inch magnums. I had a 3-inch Magnum Remington pump. And we went, we started, and I was a little hesitant. I turned my dogs out first, and I said, and I'm going to let them jump, and I'm getting back to this truck, because I see something bad happen here. Well, sure enough, my dogs went a distance and hadn't jumped yet, which was unbelievable. And the guys behind me, 2 guys from Newberry, South Carolina, were behind me. And their dogs jumped. and the deer come by me like a bullet. I mean, like to run over me. There must have been more than one. They went to shooting. And again, like the buckshot was cutting the bushes down. I said, oh, man. So I hit the ground, and while I was laying on the ground and I'm hollering my guts out for them to don't shoot no more, I said, you know what? I said, I think this is going to wind up my dog driving right here. I said, the Lord's done bailed me out twice. I said, he's going to get tired of following me around there. So I got up, and when I hit the ground, my cap had fell off about from here to that thing. By then, they were within seeing distance of me, and I got up and walked out. I said, man, it ain't your fault, but I said, this guy rigged us up a killing field here if you pay attention to what he did. And I picked my hat up, and I used to roll them up like that, you know.
Yeah.
I picked it up, and it was a little fuzzy place right there, and I looked, and that buckshot had went in that side and out the other.
Oh, my goodness.
And my uncle says, well, son, that's it. I said, that's it. It's just too dangerous. And it was, because you take this, say this road is this edge of this table here, and you're right here, Jody,
in the
and
curve.
I'm up there, and the deer comes out, and I don't see anybody up there, and I'm shooting at him before he gets to the road, and I'm shooting right at you and not even know it.
That's right.
So, but anyway, Cowden got started that way, and then it just kind of, you know, we put the names on our trucks, our farm trucks and stuff, because
It's got 100 and some odd stands, 140,
170,
170 stands.
Wow.
How many miles of dirt roads are on the place?
160.
160 miles of dirt road.
Now,
You know,
although that's including all the
little Jeep roads. We call them Jeep roads. That's
and,
right.
you know,
Yeah, I've often said we go down there. I talked to one of the club members at the church the other day. He came in, he said, I'm going in and check his cameras. And I was like, and his wife, he's newlywed, and she was in the truck or whatever on speakerphone. I said, has she ever been down there? He said, I can't remember what he said. I said, man, when you pull in that gate, time goes away. It's like half your day's gone. You don't even know it. When you get over them tracks and start going down, because you think about that many miles of dirt roads, and say you're at Bent Lake, man, that's a 30-minute ride. I don't care what you're doing, an hour's gone. That's where time stops. And it just goes or speeds up.
Yeah.
It flies. And so, you know, and it's also part of Aiken County hunting. So it's August 15th. It comes in, which is in in a week. It'll
It's a
come in.
beautiful
but
place.
anyway, we farmed it.
Yeah.
And I worked with my uncle, and I was up to 1968, and I got a little call away from our government. I had to go work for them a little bit. But anyway, so many memories there. Jody.
Yeah.
All the people that we were crazy about.
And then it correlates with Jarrett Rifles, the other hat up here.
It was a good fit, you know.
It's
really
a good
was.
fit. And how did Jarrett Rifle start? The rifle.
Well, I tell people, farming had gone bad. We'd gone broke twice. If it hadn't been for the timber that was on the place,
Yeah.
we would have lost the land. We
Yeah.
really would. That's the truth. And the second time, I had started a family. I was thinking about building my house where it is, the house you know about. And I said, well, my uncle and I sat down and talked about it. I said, there ain't no future in this. I said, Papa, I said, you think about it. I said, we grow these soybeans, and a guy in New York or somewhere decides what they're worth and wouldn't know a soybean field if he walked through one.
Right.
And I said the same thing with all the other.
That's
when
right.
we had hogs, hogs had been 19 cents a pound for 3 years. Can't grow them for that. And that was a big part of it. We had 120 sows, brood sows. And we bred the sows right. We had a farrowing house where the pigs were born. And you had to take care of them. And that was a job, cleaning out all them pens and giving them pig shots and
Yeah.
everything. Then we finally had to start cutting the little teeth off what would have been their tusk when they grew older. because they were eating each other's tails off in the pens.
Wow.
And they'd get bored in the pen, and it was crazy. But anyway, we decided that we just pretty well had enough of it. So I was doing repair work in that little room where we keep our fish and stuff on it. I had 2 workbenches in there, and I was mounting scopes. I was bedding a few guns. I would read, and then somebody'd bring me a guinea pig to work on. And that's how my deal got to going with the gun shop. And I told him, I said, I think it's pretty good. I think I can make a living at it. That's what I told him. And so he said, well, I'll tell you what. He said, you do that. And he said, just come down to the farm every morning. I said, I'm going to keep 2 of these colored boys. And whether we're breaking land or spraying or whatever, help us get set up, help us get started. And then you go do your gun deal. And I said, all right. So that's what we did until he died in 1992, I think.
Right.
And it actually got to be more than I could do. I mean, it reached a point where my kitchen double door, where it is right now, that corner right there, I'd go in there and sometimes it'd be 30 guns packed up there. And I'd tagged on what all had to be done to them. And I was doing pretty good, making a good living, no. But, I mean, I was buying groceries and making the house payment. That was about it. But I love what I was doing. Well, along about 1990, we started with the rifle hunting. And I built the first stands where A1 and A2 is. That was the first 2 I ever built. And I built my last one. I built 126, and then I got people to build them and had my own. I had built so many I didn't even have no plans or nothing. I had all the dimensions in my head, and I could saw one out and never look at anything because I'd made so many of them.
That's right.
And anyway, that looked like it really held some promise because this part of the country was drifting towards rifle hunting.
That's right.
Unlike a lot of northeastern and some northeastern and Middle Eastern states and all of out west, well, they'd been hunting with rifles forever.
Yeah.
So we got started with the rifles, and I had a tremendous interest in them because my great-granddaddy fought in the Civil War, and his name was William McDuffie Meyer, and he was a farmer and all that stuff. But what interested me about him is my grandmama. He didn't have but one girl. Had 8 kids, but didn't have one girl. That one girl was my grandmama. She lived to be 96. And anyway, long story short, she would put me on her knee. She had a wore-out couch, and my head would be here, and my feet would be hanging over, and I'd lay in her lap, and she would tell me Civil War stories that her daddy had told her.
Right.
And tremendously interesting stuff. And I mean, from a first-hand account, I mean, I was getting it the second time around. So when I started school, I got interested in the Civil War. And of course, I always was tremendously interested in the Indian artifacts because that's about finding them on the farm.
Right.
Right.
And so I got to reading about them, and I got to reading about these sharpshooters that were in the Civil War. For the most part, there was some both sides, but it was more predominant in the southern states. And there were rifles that were made in England. It was called a Whitworth. And the Whitworth had a polygon rifle, and it wasn't a groove in a rifle. It was just a twisted polygon. And the bullets were that way, and you would fit it in there. But these things, they were well made. That was obvious for that day and that time. But these guys were knocking off fellas at 800 yards with these
Wow.
things. One guy killed another guy, and it was measured 1,120 yards across the Tennessee River.
Wow.
And so I got to scratching my head, and I said, you know, I missed something here somewhere. The few guys that had rifles, they wouldn't shoot at nothing beyond 150 yards.
Yeah.
I said, then we stepped back 150 years, and these guys were killing men
Yeah. That's
at
right.
800 to 1,000 yards. I said,
Yeah.
what happened here? So being curious, I started really digging, and I found out that the real accuracy people were bench rest shooting.
Right.
So I found a guy in Greenville, South Carolina that advertised some stuff in the state paper, and I went up there, and he had a used bench rest rifle, and it was a 6x47, which is nothing but a 223 necked up to 6 millimeter.
Okay.
But it's tremendously accurate. It was one of the better early, and I say early, bench rest cartridges. So I got into that thing and started shooting and did well. I mean, this gun this guy sold me, I finally was at a shoot big enough that the guy had a bore scope, and I looked in the barrel. There wasn't any rifling for that far.
Wow.
And I was finishing in the middle of the pack with something. So anyway, I really enjoyed it, and then when I finally got a good barrel on that gun, I started winning stuff, a lot of stuff. And then the third year, I did 3 world records at Boone, North Carolina, the Watauga Gun Club, and that was what that was 5 5-shot groups at 100 and 200. The aggregate together was
Right.
the smallest anybody had ever done. So that was a record. And then I come back that afternoon and shot the 100 yards. So we shot 1, 2, 3, but we started at 3 and
Work
come
back.
And it was real good. It was like a group average of like 186. So my groups wasn't as big as 2 bullet holes. So that gave me the other. So I wound up, long story short, with 6 world records.
Wow.
And that interest helped me because I was getting information that I saw that if a hunting rifle was made that way, it would be accurate,
Right.
and 150 yards wouldn't be nothing.
Correct.
And so I did. I really went to work on that and getting a cartridge and started talking to people. And about a third of the bench rest shooters were gunsmiths, what I call basement gunsmiths anyway, and they were always experimenting. And I run across a couple of nice guys. One was Harold Broughton in Big Spring, Texas, and the other one was Jerry Hart in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and he's made Hart rifle barrel. And I spent a little time with them and a couple of other guys. So what I'm doing is I'm gathering pieces for this so-called ultimate Jarrett hunting rifle.
Right.
And the problem was nobody ever got there because they won't, gun makers are a lot of professional folks who won't talk to each other.
Right.
I mean, you and I could be best buddies, and you made guns and I made rifles, and we'd ride down the road and maybe talk all day long.
And never mention
you
a gun.
had discovered something that was really good, and you hadn't told me, you hadn't told nobody. So they didn't share information.
Right.
So I wound up evidently with more pieces of the puzzle at some point in time than anybody. And then I went up and let Jim Carmichael, he asked me to come up to his house. In fact, we visited him about 6 weeks ago. And he shot a 280 Ackley, and it was tuned up. And it was a deer weight rifle. And it had it was a 10 power scope. It was maybe 3.5 to 10 loophole or something. I don't remember. But he shot a 3-shot group about like my fingernail. I looked through the spot scope. He said, "Yeah, He said, "That's getting there, ain't it?" I said, "Yeah."
Wow.
I knew he was peeing in his pants. I said, "Yeah, pretty good." I said, "You notice?" I said, "The elevation is so much greater." I said, "We up in the
In the thin
in
air.
the hills,
Yeah.
and I said it's a little bit windy." I said, "It's way better than that." But I said, "That's kind of, you know," and it was a 3/10 group, you know.
Yeah.
Well, he wrote an article, and the title of it was "The Barren of the Bean Field." And to this day, she's heard it. It's, "I know who you are. You that barren of the bean field." And so it just prospered.
Is that where the Beanfield rifle came from? Because I have one of those, a Beanfield rifle,
Yeah,
and that's where it came from. That
Yeah.
name. That's pretty cool.
yeah. And you know, it ain't many things, and I'm bragging now, but I can't help myself. The real deal is you don't buy many things in your life. It enhances in value after you have it. Y'all know you've
Yeah.
owned enough of cars and
Yeah,
guns
that's right.
and
It
what have you.
depreciates.
You don't. But we, on average, right now, are taking guns back. Where a lady, a widow, my husband passed away, and so he had a couple of guns, and she said, "Well, I've got the invoices." Said, "I know what he paid for them." I said, "Really?" I said, "They look like they're in pretty good shape." She said, "Yeah." I said, "He didn't hunt a whole lot." I said, "But he likes Cadillacs. He wanted something that was the top of the
Yeah.
pile."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I said, "Well, just let me buy them from you." He said, "Well, what would you give me?" I said, "I'll give you whatever's on that invoice." She thought I was crazy, you know. Well, on an average, when I take a gun back like that now, according to when it was made and what of
Yeah.
series, a lot of little things, but I make an average of $1,000 on one.
Yeah.
There is nothing I know of, Mercedes, Benz, you name it, that has resale value like that.
That's right. Well, I love mine. Mine, mine's green or whatever. I went down there. Don't go down there with a checkbook because you walk in there and you see all those beautiful guns. I'm like, man, I can always tell your gun in the safe when Jay would take me in there. Yours had a scope, looked like something on a submarine. I think it was a 72 mil. At the end. Maybe it was something, I don't know what it was, a Zeiss maybe or something like that. I could tell his gun in the safe. I'm like, that's the biggest scope I've ever seen in my life. And so we love them. I mean, and my brother-in-law actually worked for you her husband worked for a while. He can
I
shoot.
never had any better help than Alan.
That boy can
John
shoot.
Allen.
Really?
Oh,
Good shot.
if at Cowden, if he said I shot something, oh, it's dead. Right where he shot. If I shot something, bring the flashlights.
and the dogs. And the dogs.
Yeah.
I got an interesting story. What's cool about I had a 300 Jarrett, actually a Jarrett cartridge one, a 300 Jarrett just before my Beanfield one, and I'd watched a doe being chased by a buck all evening. I was at D7 in that big old Cadillac stand up there, and I'm watching this. I said, that doe will come over here because she's 500 yards. If they get over here, I'm gonna shoot her. Well, right at dusk dark. Yeah, and I'm gonna bring this in. That's when I knew I had to buy another scope. When I first started hunting, you told me at Cowden, I'd have been a 20-something-year-old guy. You said you need the best gun you can afford. He said, and then you said, and buy the best scope money can buy. It needs to match as much as you can put it. He said, but then you need better binoculars than your scope because you got to be able to tell what you're shooting at. And because that double looking through the binoculars. And so I said, man, I'm fine with my $50 scope. I learned I was not. And I didn't have a $50 scope on then. But anyway, I shot. So I said, that doe will come over here. I'm going to shoot her. I know she's the front deer. Well, about dusk dark, they come. I see two deer, what I think is two deer walking. The smaller one's in the front and the big one's in the back. I said, I'm going to shoot the front one. I know that's the doe. I shoot. I get down there, there's blood and guts everywhere. And they're going in two different directions. I'm like, what has happened? And so I called Jay. I said, you got to come down here with some. So he brings somebody else down there, me, John, and them two guys Jay and another guy, Donnie, was walking. And so the dog goes one way and me and Jay's following blood this way. And so we're going through the woods, and I'm like, we got blood. And all of a sudden I hear, pow, 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 pow. They shooting guns way over here. John says, I got it. I was like, well, what do we got? And all of a sudden a phone jumps up, and we shoot it. And so what had happened was, what I thought was a buck and a doe was actually two fawns walking shoulder to shoulder
Why he
in
needs
front of
that
their mama.
scope and binoculars.
So
I wouldn't tell that.
I know.
That's why.
I mean, sometimes there's stuff you just need to keep to yourself. That's one of them.
Keep that to yourself.
All the people watching this love Bambi are going to
know it.
want to
Ain't
come to
gonna
church, Jody.
I know it. I shot 2 button bucks with 1 Jarrett shot.
Okay. That's enough.
Bullet.
Let's change the subject.
Just like, what did you do? I said, I just knew it was. I said, I got to buy a better scope. And so the next year I had a better scope. But no, I shoot them.
How many times have you had to pay up at Cowden?
I've paid my share of fines. I've always paid my fines. I have. And I've always paid Jay my fines. I'm like, Jay, you ain't going to be happy. I'm sorry. And I've only had to pay 2 fines. That was an open stand, so it didn't count. But I've paid 2 fines. I've shot a button buck. My second deer ever on Cowden was a button buck. I learned more in 2 years at Cowden in hunting than I'd ever learned. Mm-hmm. I learned when the 2 deer walk out and you shoot the big one and the one runs off, the next deer that comes back in the food plot was probably the fawn. Don't shoot it.
Plus, towards the end of the season when things is hard to see and you see
can't
a
tell.
deer out and you can't really size him,
Yep.
he's always a fawn.
Always a fawn.
Always a yearling.
Yep.
Oh.
Always. Yeah.
They
You
the
want
only thing after all that commotion for 4 months is too stupid enough to come out, you know.
it's a fawn.
But I've done that. Everybody's messed up that.
Yeah, everybody. We love it. I've loved being a part down there. I have some of my greatest memories. My kids shot their first deer down there.
My kids too, yeah.
Twins, same gun, same stand,
really,
same night.
day.
Yep.
I
In
got
fact, we got
pictures.
pictures for all this stuff. My daughter
Yeah.
shot her first deer right at 300 yards, and I said, "Put it on him," and she pulled the trigger. It ain't gonna be down there. I know it. I ain't no way she just shot this thing. Walked down there, and there was a blood trail. Walked right to it, and there it was. And I thought, pretty good. And then the next year, she shot a big old coil 7-pointer. She killed him.
I remember that one.
I remember. That's right.
Real wide.
That's right. I sent a picture of it, and so I've had so many memories. I got snake memories too down there now.
Oh, here we go.
I've had a lot of snake memories. That John Allen, her husband, we was down there first year in the club. I'm young, and we did shrimp all night Friday night at Grays Hill, which was near your place. Then drove back that night, just in time to get in the deer stand that morning. We hunt, got a dove hunt at noon. We dove hunt, and then I'm like, we got time to go deer hunting again. And so me and John are flying down this dirt road. I don't know what we was on. I mean, I didn't drink coffee back then, and I didn't drink. I just had energy like no other, like a teenager still, I guess. Something happened when I hit 30, and I just crashed. But so we're flying down the road, and this rattlesnake is stretched across the road. I'm trying to roll it with my truck, but I'm trying to hurry up and get to my stand. John then jumped out the truck when I stopped, and he grabs it, and he puts it in my dove bucket in the back of my truck with my doves. Well, it's still moving. Like, it ain't dead. And so we go hunting or whatever. I shoot 2 does that evening. John shoots 2 does that evening. Well, we got to clean the shed. First year in the club, we had been there a month. John tells some random guy at the cleaning shack, "Hey, man, can you go get, I need you to get something out of my dove bucket in the back of the truck."
No.
That guy opens that lid, and that rattlesnake is down there twisting in that dove bucket. I said, "John, I'd have killed you if you sent me to that dove bucket. That rattlesnake's in there." It was still moving. It wasn't dead. I don't know if it'd bit you, but that's a lot of memory. I got a lot of snake memories down there.
I can see John doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, go over there. This random guy, go over there and get that thing out my dove bucket.
Yeah.
You know what it was.
He
And
did.
he popped that lid, and that man screamed. And I thought,
John learned early on in our marriage about me and snakes. We
man,
don't come.
No snakes.
Nope.
Snake.
No.
no snakes. I don't like
I'll
it.
lose my brain over something like that.
exactly right.
He might be real good at shooting guns, but he also likes to handle. He likes snakes. I don't know why. I don't know what human likes snakes, but
John's the only one I've ever seen do this. This was probably back in my 20s. He said, he texted me, that's when I had BlackBerry phones. He texted me and he said, I just killed 2 coyotes. I was like, I heard 1 gunshot. How'd you kill 2? He caught them running like that. And when they crossed, he pulled the trigger and killed both of them right there.
Wow.
If that boy shoots his gun, it's dead. If I shot, it could have been a snake, a raccoon. I don't know what, whatever's trying to get me, I shot at it.
a leaf blowing.
Yeah, something's in the bush. I don't know. But no, if John Allen shoots, that thing is dead. And he was one of your tuners, I guess, for a couple of years. And he can flat shoot a gun.
He can. He's the best tuner I ever had.
Yeah, that boy can shoot a gun. And he showed me these plates he was shooting. I guess you have 1,000-yard range down there. And he would call me down and, "Won't you look through the scope and look at this?" I'm like, "I can barely see the plate through the scope. What are you shooting at?" And he said, "Man," and he would put 3 in that plate at 1,000 yards. Incredible. Shooting one of your guns he was tuning. I'm like, that is incredible to think you can shoot 1,000 yards like that.
It is. It really is.
It really is. And but y'all not been married long, but
Got married in the museum.
Well, we've been married.
Cowden.
How long have we been married?
a year and a
About
piece.
a month.
A month? What?
I think it was last summer, wasn't it?
It's a year, but about 3 months ago, I said, "What are we going to do for our anniversary?" And he said, "How long have we been married? 3 years?" And he was dead serious. I said, "Wrong answer."
But y'all met. You've told me a story. Y'all met actually when you were.
We started first grade together, and we were in the same class. And he was this cute little blonde-headed, curly-head little guy. And at lunchtime, after lunch, we had to take a nap. Did y'all have to do that when you were in school? Mm-mm. We had to take a nap, and their desks were those square flat tops.
Right.
And some people had to lay on the top of the desk, and some laid in the chairs. And I'm laying on the top desk, and you couldn't raise your head. You're supposed to lay there with your eyes closed. And so I'm laying there with my eyes closed, and
Look at all
all of a sudden, somebody pulls up my dress. You didn't wear jeans back then. Girls wore dresses.
What?
And I look over, and this little boy is pulling my dress up, and I'm got my head up, and the teacher walks in the door. Well, who does she see?
You got in trouble.
I got in trouble. So he never could understand why all the way through school
You didn't like
I
him.
wouldn't date him, you know?
I don't like you. I don't like you.
But talking about his grandmother, when we were in probably about the 9th or 10th grade, he used to bring me stuff to school. And he brought me a piece of carrot cake. And his grandmother had made it. It was so good. So the next day he brought me the recipe. I still have that recipe.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I can't make it like she did.
That's awesome. But then X amount of years later, you run into each other.
We dated one time.
Yeah, we went on one date when we were in the 12th grade. But we both went our separate ways and got married, had some failed marriages, and about 6 years ago, he tracked me down, and I let him know that I was not interested, but I became interested.
No, she's putting that too nice. She was plumb ugly. Sonny. I mean, plumb ugly.
Well, you must have won her over somehow. And by all means, this is one of the nicest ladies. I'm trying to picture her being very ugly.
Plum ugly.
I was.
Plum ugly.
I was. I promise you, I was. He's right.
But her mama was a lot smarter than she was. Because her mama picked me.
She did. My mother, when we were growing up, she said, "I don't understand why you don't go out with Kenny Jarrett. He's such a nice-looking young man." But, who listens to their mother?
And here we are.
Shook you off.
years later, and we was able got married in a museum
museum
on
yeah.
the elephant, which was awesome.
Yep.
You know, and
In our blue jeans.
In our blue jeans, right there, we
Yes.
got married. It was simple, and a lot of people don't even know about that museum. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. It's probably one of the top places I can.
And
Oh, yeah.
many Civil War artifacts in there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Many.
And Indian.
Many.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is. It's not somebody's living room museum. This thing is legit.
And I think people are so surprised when they come because it's like, oh, well, you know, what's this going to be? And they walk in and they're like, oh my gosh. I mean, one guy that was at the Veterans Hunt one year came in and he said, he walked around and he came back. We were sitting on those chairs that are to the
Right.
left. And he said, I'm from Washington, D.C. He said, I have been to the Smithsonian many times. He said, this tops the Smithsonian.
Yeah.
So, you know, people just, they don't know.
You don't think going down Brown Road, oh, it's just
No.
going to be whatever. Go to the
No.
museum, no big deal. But when you walk in, it's eye opening. It's
a big
jaw.
deal.
It's a big deal.
It is.
And it's a big deal taking the tour with Kenny so he could tell a story. My
That's
favorite
the
story.
best.
There's two. We ain't gonna tell one of them, but the one of them I like the elephant story about the when you walk in, it gets to the back. They got this massive elephant head.
And the
how-
alligator. You got the alligator.
Oh, and the alligator. Y'all love fishing in Bent Lake?
Yeah.
the alligator.
Did you fish there when that alligator was there?
I would have. It had been before the alligator was shot. That's correct. I was down there. I sure did. Well, the elephant has the most interesting story about all the animals. He tells a story, of how you killed him. I think they was looking for him, or if you want to share the story.
I'll tell a story if we got time.
Oh, you do. Go ahead, because it's my favorite museum story.
Well, I'm gonna do 4 quick as I can.
Okay.
Times that my faith and trust in the Lord is the reason I'm sitting in this chair.
Okay. I like it.
The first one was I was up in the Brooks Range in Alaska in a Super Cub, a 1952 Super Club. Well, these things will take off short distance, but when they land, they don't stop as quick. So what these guys do up there is they put oversized brakes on them and put racing slicks on them. So here's a little airplane going through the sky with tires half as big as a airplane.
Yeah.
All of them have racing slicks on them, would help them stop. But anyway, we were coming back from bear hunting. We were hunting a grizzly bear. And I got about, I'm going to say we were 5th the way back. Well, the Brooks Range, the mountains are so high till a plane, unless it's a sealed plane, you can't go over one of them. They're 12, 14,000 feet. What you have to do is fly down and go through one of these saddles,
Right.
And so we were going through the saddle, and this boy's name was Kenny something or other. I don't remember his last name, but anyway, it sputtered a couple of times, I said, this don't sound good.
Mm.
I'm a pretty good mechanic. I ain't no airplane mechanic, but I can tell you, this thing sputtered.
Yeah.
So we made the turn around the mountain. He was cutting it pretty tight on the mountain, and here were 2 beautiful doll sheep, and they're snow white. They're white as just a beautiful animals. 2 of them laying there, and it was a little black spot, I guess where the snow had melted. That's where they were laying, and it was snow all around them. And we were talking about that, and he leveled it off. And he said, Kenny said, we got a problem. I said, what kind of problem?
Yeah, because ain't no good problems in the air.
He said, we're out of gas.
No.
Oh, no.
I said, Ken, we ain't out of gas. Don't tell me that. I said, you don't have parachutes in here either, do you? And I was joking because I thought he was joking me about the gas. He wasn't joking about the gas. Got straightened out, and way down we could see this gravel bar. It wasn't sandbar, it was gravel. And there's a village on the end of it. He said, if we can make it to right there, that those people will sell me some gas. I said, are you serious? We really out of gas? He said, yep. So we get, I'd say, half the way there now. And he's climbing. I said, what are you doing? I said, you're burning more gas. I said, listen. He said, I'm going to get high as I can so if this thing peters out so that I can glide.
That's right.
I can glider fly it, And they're light. They're real light. These Super Cubs had the wings and everything was wrapped with like oil canvas or something. So we got about halfway, I would say, to it. And it sputtered about twice. I remember I looked out his glass. You sit behind each other in a Super Cub like this. Well, I looked through the windshield, and I see the prop sitting there at 12 o'clock. I said, this is really not good. So he was doing a good job, and he said, I'm gonna hit that sandbar. And he said, you need to hold on, so it might be a little rough. I said, okay. So we get right there at the end of the gravel bar, and he's going down. I said, man, this is going to be perfect. Well, the river was right by us, a big river, but it wasn't white capping up and down the river. It was white capping this way, which meant the wind was going across the thing. So he landed it, and it bounced about twice, and I said, thank you, Jesus. And we were slowing down, and a tuft of air got that thing.
no.
It flipped it.
And flipped him. He turned it and flipped it over. So now we're upside down, out of gas, and here comes a carload of Indians with the guns. Every one of them had a gun.
Oh,
I said,
no.
man, they make a show about this. This is getting too much fun, So he said, Kenny, he said, when you get out, so get your rifle. He said, some of these people don't like white folks at all. I said, we're going to try to buy gas from them, and they don't like us? I said,
And they've got guns.
well, they got there, and sure enough, there 2 or 3 of the big ones jumped out. And I was kind of like John with the coyotes. I said, well, I got about 4 bullets in here. I'm going to try to line them up. And they were cussing and carrying on. Some on the back had baseball bats sized pieces of wood. He told them what the problem was. And they hassled about, and finally he basically told them that he would give them twice what they paid for it, and we had to have some gas to get back to Anchorage. So they came with another pickup, and they had a barrel of gas, 55 gallons that had been opened. And they had one that hadn't been opened. He got in an argument about he didn't want the gas out of the drum that had been opened. Well, I didn't understand that, and then it dawned on me. I said, they could have put water in it, anything.
That's right.
He done said these people don't like white folks.
Yeah.
And so he went through a turmoil with them. He finally got to get them to take the seal off the other drum and give us the gas out of that. And we probably put 16, 18 gallons in it. They charged him $100. But it was the best $100 that's ever been spent. On top of that, they had to help us turn the plane over.
Yeah.
Well, the only problem was some oil had come out of the engine. It was a little old Lycoming, little old 4-cylinder Lycoming engine. But anyway, we got that going. We made it home. But by the time all that happened, it was dark. Well, this thing ain't got headlights on it. All he's got is a compass. And we got to go back to Anchorage, which was a good 2.5 hour flying time in that thing. And it black dark. I said, Ken, what you gonna do? He said, I got it covered, don't worry about it. I said, like you had the gas covered? I said, I don't trust you. Tell me what we're gonna do. we went over about 2 miles and picked up the pipeline. And about every quarter of a mile, there's like a street light on that pipeline. And we followed that pipeline back to Anchorage.
Wow.
And we landed on if he hadn't have known what we landed on a little old gravel strip there in Anchorage that he used. And it was so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. He made the prettiest landing you ever saw.
Wow.
Wow.
All right, another story. Airplanes again. This was a 182 Cessna on floats, landed in water. Well, they flew me up to a camp to hunt moose, and it was right where the Hess and Yukon rivers come together. I've hunted in 24 countries, all over the place. Anyway, our camp was right there at where those two rivers came together. And they flew us in there in the float plane and landed, and we got out with all our stuff. And it was a boat there and a motor, and we had 10 gallons of gas. We had 15. We took off with the plane off this big river, the place called Whitehorse. And there was a bunch of big old fir trees all around that lake. And, you know, we were running out of water here, and this plane wasn't flying. And I said, well, I'll just sit here and let him kill both of us. I reckon ain't nothing I can do. So he pulled it back real quick and made a sharp turn like that, stood it up like that. The wing was dragging in the water. He idled back to the dock. They was out there. They knew something was wrong. Tied us up. We had so much stuff in that thing. He said, we got to take something out. It's too heavy, so it won't fly. He took 1 5-gallon bucket of gas out. He said, that ought to do it. I said, man, get something else out of here. I said, 5 gallons of gas. He said, I'm telling you. He said, I'm going to go down against the bank here and get a run and go, and we're going to go the long length this way. Well, he did. He got it up, and we clipped those trees with those floats.
Oh, my goodness.
And once we got it up, it was all right. And we went back. Well, we made it to the camp, and it was overnight camp, and then he flew us into where we were hunting at. Well, when they come to get us, I had killed a big old moose. They come to get us, another boy, younger guy, and you don't want a young guy as a bush pilot. You want a guy that's got some gray on his head, trust me. But anyway, he come to pick us up, and he had a pretty nice-looking plane. Looked nicer than the one we come down on, and we got up there, and he told me what it was going along. I know a lot about those airplanes. I've rode so much in them, and he was telling me about what all they did to the engine and put an extra turbo on it. And I didn't particularly like the idea of souping up something that I was putting my life in. I mean, a car, one thing, you can pull off the side of the road and get out and go to walking and thumb. You don't thumb well out of an airplane.
That's right.
Well, anyway, we got about, 150 feet from the 150 yards, I guess. No, it was more than that, 250 yards. And I noticed this oil was going by the glass on my side. And I picked him, it was on his too. And the thing was running ragged. It was a radial engine. He knows what that is. It was 7 cylinders in a circle.
Right.
And he said, I said, I see the RPMs are going down. I said, I'm going to ramp it up. I said, no. I said, you done dropped the jug on this thing, buddy. That's what they call each cylinder. I said, you done dropped the jug. I said, you ramp it up if you want to. I said, we won't make it to that. If we can make it to that lake, we can land. I hope. So I talked him into not bothering, and we were losing altitude. And we were real close to the water. We cleared it, again, them same cedar trees. I dreamed about them cedar trees for a month. And we got down there. Well, the way you land a plane on water, just on floats, is they do what they call a tail drag. You go in like that with the back end down, and then you ease it down, and it floats. Because all the weight's up front, if you don't do it that way,
That's right.
it'll do a
Nose
duck
dive.
on you. Yeah. Well, the motor conked out right. We were probably 75 feet above the water, and it just quit. I said, "Oh man, here we go again." And well, he landed it, but he wasn't under power, so he couldn't land it like I'm explaining to y'all. He had to come in
Almost flat.
almost flat. Well, he did, and he got it on the water. Boy, they do. Boop,
Yeah.
turn it straight up like that. And water's coming all in the cab, and finally it settles back down, and we get out, and I said, "Man, we wet, all our stuff's wet." I looked, and there was a guy cranking a John boat coming out. He'd seen what happened. He come out there and got us. And the third one is the best one, but I'll save it to Plan B next year.
Yeah.
I know we're out of time. We've been out of time.
No, it's great. That's great. But you still didn't tell me the elephant story. That's the end with the elephant story.
Okay.
I want you to end with that one.
I was in the Kilwa region of Tanzania, and I was after about 8 animals. And the most important, of course, was an elephant. And the only reason I was after an elephant because a distant cousin of mine, his name was Bob Jarrett. He lived in Texas, and he was the front man for this outfitter in the States. He was also the first guy that ever helped design and fly a Cobra helicopter in Vietnam.
Wow.
An outstanding helicopter pilot. So anyway, they gave me a deal on the elephant where I couldn't turn it down. Wound up, I killed 2 of them. But anyway, I shot one because it was wounded, and they have a rule there. And in Tanzania, you got a game scout that goes with you.
Right.
And he's a nice enough guy, but he don't speak any English or anything. Well, anyway, we found this elephant, and we tracked him probably 3 miles down this old dry riverbed, sand that deep. And we saw where he went up the bank. Well, every step he took, he was dragging his foot about from here to the wheels on that thing, about a 6-foot drag. And the hunter, the white hunter, said his left legs, he said another bull elephant has damaged his leg or his shoulder, more than likely his shoulder. So we went there, and finally it was just a washed-up place, and he had turned and went up that. And we saw him out there, no ways, eating. So we went down a little further, and we went up. And we got where we could see him, but the only way we could see him was down on one knee, on the knee. And the hunter had discussed it with me. He said, "If you want to shoot him, you can shoot him, or I'll shoot him." He had a gun, a 375 H&H that was held together with friction tape. You remember that old friction tape
Yeah,
that was
that's
sticky on both sides?
Yeah.
That's what held it together. He pulled his bullets out, and if I'm lying, I'm dying. It was 4 there, as green as a collard leaf, and wasn't no 2 of them the same.
Oh, no.
I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll shoot him." He said, "Well, you can shoot him, but you won't get no part of him. You won't." He had pretty good tusks. Said,
Yeah.
You won't have no part of him, but he's got to be put down if you want to do it." So I got down on my knee, and I shot him and I killed him. So now I'm an expert elephant hunter. Killed an elephant. Well, we didn't see nothing the rest of that day. And the 3rd day, we ran up on a real good one walking down a road. And there's something called elephant grass there. It's about as tall as this room. And it was in an old ebony forest. Ebony is the 5th hardest wood in the world. Ebony is that black thing you see on the tip of a rifle on the pistol
Yeah,
grip.
that's right. Uh-huh.
That's ebony.
Okay.
Well, it was 2 or 3 of them still standing. But he turned and went out in the grass. Well, all you could see was the top of his head. The grass was that tall. Well, what an elephant will do, he don't have to see. He'll run that snout up like a snorkel and smelling all around, you know. So we went to the left to try to get out of the wind. Somewhere along the deal, he got a whiff of us and took off. Well, I got a 80-yard. You really don't shoot those things much over about 60 yards, because you need all the horsepower that gun's got. I said, this might be my only chance. I'm going to try it. So I shot him. He stumbled a little bit, and he went down. He went down, just head first. His tusk was like sticking in the ground like a prop or something. So we got over there, and they walked around, and the white hunter, what they always do when you shoot an animal in Africa, most even North America, if it's a dangerous animal, they go up and they touch his eye with the barrel of the gun. Well, he went up and touched the eye of this elephant, and he blinked and started moving a little bit. Well, he had 3 trackers with him and the white hunter. The white hunter was the only one that had a gun. When he done that, they took off. They ain't said nothing to me. I mean, they was running like a drove of geese. And I'm standing there. Well, this elephant's getting up. And I'm deciding I've got to shoot him. I knew where to shoot him, but, you know, it was a little unnerving, you know, 12,000-pound animal from here to that light from you, and he was that close at least. So I'm trying to shoot him, and I was concentrating on that, and something all of a sudden hit me right in the chest. I thought it'd kill me, knock the air out of me. I'm laying on the ground trying to get my breath, and I look, and he had, when he fell, his tusk had penetrated one of those old ebony logs. It wasn't real long, about 20 feet. And when he turned towards me, he had that log stuck in his tusk.
Oh, no.
And he hit me across here and knocked me flat. So I'm flat on the ground. I'm trying to crawl over there and get my gun, which I finally do. I threw that gun up, y'all, and I'm telling you, I didn't know more aim it than nothing. All thing I had in my mind was shoot. And they got a little sunk in place behind their eye and the earlobe, right about here. And I shot him. He reared up kind of like a horse, wobbled a little bit. He fell. And I said, oh my God, he's gonna fall on me. That was the next thing I said. Well, he fell away from me. I walked up there, and I'd made the most perfect shot you've ever seen in your life. If I looked through that scope, you did.
Yeah.
Just the Lord looking out for me.
That's right.
So we got him. Didn't get to see it with the first one. With this one, we were looking, trying to take pictures about dark. We heard these pots and pans rattling, and these guns, and knives and hatchets, and here come about 50 black folks walking down the road. I guess they'd heard the shots.
That's right. They're just coming to get the food.
Here they came. And I mean, they got after it, buddy, when they, and they cut a place right below his guts there, and about 4 of them drug it out. One of them crawled up in there and was doing something. And I asked the white hunter, I said, what's he go up in there for? I couldn't imagine climbing up inside that thing. And he said, Mr. Jarrett, I don't know. About the time we heard him holler. Well, there was 2 of them up in there.
Oh, my goodness.
He come out, the second one that went in, he's all right, Ud. He had cut the heck out of him with one of the butcher knives. I mean, real bad right there. So he's bleeding to death. They're trying to get this meat.
Oh, no.
And we left them working on it. We went back the next morning and got the head, and of course the tusk and all was with the head.
But that's just another time that God had his hand on your life.
Yeah.
So, when we think about all the stories, even from the first grade and all these things, and we look back on your life at going to 24 different countries, and there's many, many more stories I've heard about, even in Russia, where you and Jay went and being pulled by snowmobiles, whatever, going to the next place and shooting all kind of things and hunting all kind of animals and being all these places. It's a lot of danger involved in all that. And at the end of the day, God, his hand, through all the turmoil, through all the near-death experiences, God's been there.
That's right.
God's been present.
He's been present. He was always there. Even when we don't notice him, he's always there.
And in all that, I really didn't have any fear. Now, I got a little shaky after it was over. And it dawned on me that
What happened?
the Lord had protected me, and I was all right. But I thought I could have not been all right.
That's right. Life is very precious, and it could have went the other way.
Yeah.
Well, our family, we love your families.
Yeah.
And we are thankful for everything
We
that you've
appreciate
done.
it. Y'all added a very special spot in our hearts. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we love you, and
Yes,
we just pray it continues. And I believe that revival's coming, even at Cowden Fellowship. It's and down that Brown Road, and God's been moving. It's so powerful. I've said many times, it's just as free to preach there as it is anywhere I've ever preached. And God's moving and smiling face. Even this last Thursday, so much joy in the room. It was 100 degrees, but it didn't matter. They stacked in there. Nobody's complaining. It just worked.
nobody ever
Nobody
complains,
complains.
do
It's funny when you get rid of the religion part and all the church,
Churchiness.
the churchiness side of it. All of a sudden, it don't matter what color the walls are. It don't matter what color the floor is. It don't matter what the temperature is.
Exactly.
If the chairs are hard.
That's
or
right.
padded.
Chairs are hard. Nobody complains. And so it's this purest coming together as church as you'll ever see. And I'm thankful to be a part for the whole family. And we'll get back together because I know you got piles of stories.
I know.
And I mean, I'd love
it.
We could take it down there, all the stuff, and go do it from the museum, and just so people can grasp that's going to watch this, that's never seen it. It's just more than it. I know what people are thinking. Man, it's just in Jackson. It can't be bigger than a living room. This place is it's really big. It's really got some awesome artifacts in it.
God has been so good to me and blessed me, but on top of that, he's protected me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of more that's a little more exciting. Well, that happened, but we don't have time. But I'll save it for another time.
We'll save it for another day. Well,
Yeah.
we love you,
Our
Kenny.
timer went
We
off.
love you, Trish. we love the grandboys and
Our
all the
timer.
family. And we
Thank
just pray that God continues to bless Cowden, bless everything that God is doing down there. And
Amen.
for sure. Amen.
And it is
Amen.
well.
It is well. Amen.
Amen.
If you would like to support the Limitless Outreach podcast, please share your testimony with your friends and family and everyone you meet, and let your testimony be limitless to the world.